of us don't really know about him. And today we will know a lot about him. Amen. Amen. So at this point in time, I want us to, with a round of applause, we are going to give a big hand, a really big hand to this man of God, our Papa Jew, who is going to be the host.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Move. Move. Move week 2019. Move week 2019. Yes, indeed. It is our prayer that by the end of this program we'll become better men of significance. Amen. Before we go on, I would just like to acknowledge one senior man in the house. And he's the freshest married Harvest alumni in the house. Show some love for Papa Chris, man. Papa Chris, yo. Papa Chris, how is your wife? She's doing very well. Okay, we thank God. Very soon, Padua and Nathan them will also be joining you people. Amen. And myself. Okay, so today we have a very, very special program. Over the years, there's one anointed man of God that has been blessing our life. And I know you clap like he says, but when there's an introduction going on, relax. And then when the introduction is over, you clap. Amen. Okay, so this man is the pastor of Harvest Chapel UCC and the patron as well. He's also a pastor at Harvest Chapel Cape Coast Town Branch. He's a lecturer at the University of Cape Coast. He's married to the sizeless, lovely, one and only favorite person, Mrs. Rosalind Brown. Show some love for Mrs. Brown, man. And so today, we are going to have an interaction with a man who is a teacher, who is a pastor. Some say he's a prophet. He's a sportsman. He's a father. He's a counselor. He's a chef. He's what again? Spiritually rich and everything. Ladies and gentlemen, with a standing ovation, let us invite to join me up here, Pastor Dr. Atto Brown. You may kindly take your seats. Good evening, Daddy.
Hello?
Mr. KK. Okay.
Yeah, they can hear me. Yeah, good evening.
Welcome, Daddy.
Thank you.
How are you today? How are you, please?
I can't hear you.
How are you doing today?
They can hear you, but I can't hear you. Because that's...
Okay, Daddy, how are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm very good.
Okay. Did you lecture today?
A lot.
Okay, thank you very much. Oh, show some love for David, man. Okay, so over the years, you've been a blessing to us, and so many people have passed through your hands for at least 8 years, and this evening, even as we desire and we look at men of significance, we found that you are one man that is worth knowing. Amen. And so today we want to have an interaction with you, and we want to get to know you. Before that, I want you to give us the move onto. So when I say move, you give us onto. Yeah. Move. 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 Okay, so I'm going to start with some few questions on your background, and I think you have an interesting name because usually when you hear, usually it's Kwabna Yeboah or Ajiman Techi or something. But this one is Ato Brown. I don't know if you get what I'm talking about. Yeah, you see, it's a very interesting combination. You understand? So first of all, the first question is, what does the name Ato mean in Akan?
I honestly don't know. It's just like most of the Akan names is your day of birth. So that is Saturday born. So that's why I've Ato Kwame now, because it's the same as Kwame. So in Fanti, the Fanti's name, the Ato, and then the Kwame is more of the Tree Ashanti. So it's just Saturday born. So it doesn't really mean anything apart from the day that you were born.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. How many siblings do you have, please?
I have 3.
3. Okay. Do they also have Akan names as you?
Everybody.
Everybody. Okay.
Nobody has English or Bible or no.
Okay.
It's all African names.
Wow, interesting. Put your hands together for. Okay. We'd like to know, are your parents still alive?
All of them.
Wow, glory to God. Amen. It's such a blessing. Want to find out a few things about your childhood. So first of all, we would like to know. Yes, we'd like to know where you were born.
Where?
Yes, Daddy.
I was born in Accra. I was actually born in Legon Hospital. I was born. I'm trying to remember the date. I'm trying to remember the time. Okay. I think it was 11 p.m. or thereabout. Wow. So I was born deep in the night, and I arrived and I stayed in Lagos. So I'm partly Accra. People think I've lived in Cape Coast all my life, but we came to Cape Coast. Even though I'm from Cape Coast, I wasn't born in Cape Coast.
Okay. All right. Every child has a favorite game that they used to play when they were young. Everybody. So, are there any games that you remember that you enjoyed playing when you were very little?
When we were little, we play football, we climb trees. You don't have all these video games, TV. Watching TV was even a luxury. Watch TV when it comes from 6 o'clock. I think by 10 o'clock the TV is off. Black and white TV. Sometimes we go. I remember my father have to go and adjust the back of the TV because most of you didn't meet it. It's called a cathode ray TV. You have to put your hand behind it and adjust it. And so we didn't really have games. So the normal games, football, climbing trees, like I said, chaskele, those were the games we played. Nothing, and just being happy children. I mean, that's what you do for fun when you are during those days. And everybody played it. There was nothing to do apart from that. So all the children gathered and we played.
Wow, thank you. We want to talk about having basic education. So first of all, I'd like to find out what basic school you attended, and then how a regular school day was like for you, from rising up in the morning and then going to bed at night. How do you remember that experience, and how was it like?
Basic school.
Yeah.
Basic school experience. I didn't like school.
Oh wow.
I didn't like. When people think I never liked school. I didn't like going to school. I would cry in school. I ran away from school. They would chase me. So I didn't like school. So school was not fun. So when I see children who don't like school, I just laugh. And I know there's hope for them. But if you say you don't like school at this stage, you are in trouble. Then basic school, that is fine. So typical day in school, the basic school until upper primary. I wasn't really interested in school. I'll go to school, I'll be in school. If it's time to play, we'll play. But learning was not something I took serious. So lower primary, if you tell me a typical day, I'll be waiting for break time. Go and play and then I'll come back. When I got to upper primary, then I realized that school is meant for learning. Then I decided to learn. And so for an upper prime, you go to school. Those days you have to go and do your compound work. You sweep, do all the things you need. You go for classes. Then you have first break, second break. Then after that, you just go and buy. I think we used to close at 1. Thereabout. You finish. Nowadays they have extra classes. Then the children stay until 4, till 5. By 1, you are at home. You are getting ready to go and play football at 3. And you play football the whole day till 6. You go and eat, you sleep, and then you wake up and go to school again. So that's a typical day.
Okay, that's really interesting. Okay, so by 1 o'clock you are home. How was discipline at home like? I mean, with you and your siblings and the whole family, how was discipline maintained at home?
Back in the day, I mean, when my formative years were in the 80s, so most homes there's discipline. I mean, it's not like today that people do all sorts of things and parents are at work, and yes, even then my parents work, but discipline was something that was really enforced. You don't talk back to elders. You know you are in trouble. You understand? When you get, I mean, and it wasn't like you couldn't have fun or you couldn't play or you couldn't do anything, but you just had to know your limit. The house was fun. I had 3 siblings, so we were always making fun, getting into trouble, but we knew where our limit was, and you knew that, I mean, when you step out of line, you are going to be disciplined. And discipline was not only beating. I mean, I don't remember being beaten so severely. Usually my mother was the one who was always chasing you around with a cane. My father doesn't talk much, but you were more afraid of our father than our mother, even though the mother did the beating. Understand? So you just sit back and watch, and then when he speaks, even when he speaks, it is more than the beating. So I don't know if the Y is for what I said or for the 7. And so that was it. So the discipline was something that we grew up with, and I think it's very important. It shapes young people, and many people are not disciplined when they are growing up, and then they come into society and they can't even compare. They think that we are colleagues or we are co-equals. No, it doesn't happen that way. You must know your limit. Even in our home, even if there's anything to be shared or anything to be done, it is done according to ages, so that you know that your sibling that is older than you is ahead of you, and you must respect the person. So if there was anything to be shared, it will be shared according to how old you were. And if there were responsibilities, it will be shared accordingly, so that you know that your bigger brother, you are not the same. You may play with him, so they are always seniors in everything, and you learned that. But nowadays it's like people, whether somebody is 3 years older than you, 4 years, we are all in the university. You do it. That shouldn't happen that way. So these are things that we must learn and we must enforce, and it will help us as a society and as people. So that was basically how discipline was, and I think that it is something that I still stick to and I still enforce. It's because it's important for you to be disciplined. Without that, you can't get anything done in life. You can be brilliant, you can be talented, you can be gifted, but if you are not disciplined, nothing will happen. You won't get anything done.
Thank you very much. When you were speaking, you mentioned crossing the limit. Is there any time that you fell into some trouble that you miraculously escaped? Is there any trouble that you miraculously escaped?
Plenty, but I've been trying to remember them. I can't remember any. I know there are times that I know I thank God seriously because I knew I was going to get in trouble. But some way, somehow, so I've been trying to, I've been trying to remember some of the things, but I can't really remember. I know there were times like that, you got yourself in trouble. I know that it has happened. I can't remember what I did specifically and then how I managed to, what happened. But all those things were there, and those were fun times when you know you are going to get it and suddenly either they forget about it or they don't see it or something happens, but I can't really remember any particular instance now.
All right.
It's been many years.
Yeah. Okay. Audience, I don't know if you've noticed, if you go to Daddy's house, he's usually in the kitchen. He knows how to do wonderful things. It's not like he just goes to the kitchen. He actually cooks. Daddy, you want to find out, is it from childhood experience? Was everybody required to be in the kitchen when you were young? Is that where you picked it from, or is just a personal habit that you have?
There's a saying that necessity is the mother of invention. When you don't like hunger, you learn how to cook. And so that is how come I learned how to cook. Because one, I don't like being hungry. Two, I don't like people bluffing me when I'm hungry. So everybody in my house knows that if you want the fastest way to cook anything, I'll cook it very quickly. I hate, so those were the things that propelled me to learn how to cook, because I didn't like the fact that you come home, what is there, say there's no food and somebody is no. So I learned how to cook. I just watched, I observed. You start with little things. Little frying egg, doing this, but just learning and then making mistakes, learning how to do this, learning how to do that. So if I'm not mistaken, by the time I was in class 5, when you're in class 5, how old are you? I don't know, maybe 10? About 10. That's when I really got interested in cooking. Class 4, they are about just 5. But 5, I just wanted to learn how to cook. So you watch, you observe, you learn how they boil the rice, you do a bit of that, do a bit of that. So by the time I was, let's say, 12, 13, I think I was cooking, at least rice and stew, I could do it. Right? Because at a point in time when my parents were working and my elder brother and sister were in boarding house, so by the time I get home and there's nothing in the house to eat, I just cook. And sometimes I know they are coming, I'll boil rice for the whole family. When my mother comes, she'll make the stew. And when I started getting good, I'll make the stew as well. By the time she comes, there's rice and stew. So before I went to secondary school, I was cooking.
Put your hands together for the chef, man.
So it's not a big deal when people make noise about cooking and it's difficult, and I don't see anything difficult about cooking. It's the easiest thing to do. It's very basic. You can't burn the food. You put the taste in, put the this in, put the this. Just be vigilant. Taste for salt. Make a few mistakes. You work it out. No problem.
Wow, move. Are you listening? When Daddy was, before secondary school, he was cooking. Some of you are in level 300, going to level 400. Okay, so we are going to move from basic school to secondary school. So which secondary school did you attend?
The only school in Ghana.
Daddy, I don't think you attended Pope John Secondary School and Junior Seminary.
But when did that become a school? We are talking about a school that was formed in 1876.
Wow.
Not 19. So I went to Infant Spring School. I went to first year in 1995.
Wow.
And so I don't know where you were in 1995. Went in January 1995. Finished in, I think, August 1997. So it's been 25 years since I went to first year.
Wow.
And 22 years since I finished third year. So
Senior man. Okay, so at that time, from basic school to secondary school, how was the selection and placement system like?
Those days, it was done at the school. I think the headmasters would meet. You know, you fill the forms, and I think those times you used to have the school selection process or something. So the headmasters would meet. There was a time they met, and then they would get all the cards. I think they used to fill cards. So you go and then they will select. So when they look at your grade, and then they will pick. So if your first choice school wants you, then they'll pick you. Otherwise, then they'll pass your card to your second choice school. So the thing was that if you picked, let's say, a school that felt it was a first class school, a first choice school, and you picked it for second choice, when they pass your card on to that school and it's their second choice, it is likely that they will not pick you. So you may end up getting your third choice or your fourth choice rather. But it was done by the head. There was no computer placement. It was done at the school level. The headmasters would meet, and so in those days everybody wanted the best. So the headmasters made sure they chose the best first, and then they would then pick other students to fill in here and there, and then so that was how it was done. So it was done manually by the headmasters. They will meet together one day, and then it takes some time, not one day, but I think over a period of time, and then they do the selection.
Okay. Infantipim wanted our father. Show some love, man. They picked our father. Amen. It means he was a shark, you know. Okay. In secondary school, what program did you study, and what were your subjects?
I did science. So in those days, you would either do physics, chemistry, maths, or you do physics, chemistry, biology. So I did physics, chemistry, biology. Now I think you do 4 physics, chemistry, maths. I think. But in those days, you picked either maths or biology. So I did biology and not maths. Even though I think we did core maths, everybody did, but we didn't do what you call elective maths.
Infantipim is known to be very good academically. So did that put pressure on you to study hard, or you were just being yourself? You did your best in school?
Oh no, I mean, I think it's important that wherever you find yourself, you do your best. I think it wasn't at a point in time you must decide what you want to do with your life. And I think by the time I got to secondary school, I realized that the things I was doing, those things were going to shape my life. So I just knew that you just needed to study. I mean, definitely the pressure is there because you are in class with very good students. I mean, it was competition was keen. I mean, somebody would beat you with 1 mark, half a mark, and it was that keen. So it also gingered you to learn. And then, but beyond that, I think once in the secondary school, I think when most people are going there, that's when you advise that this is when you actually start your life, because there are many pitfalls when you go. There are friends and other things that can distract you. So by the time I went there, and I went to secondary school too as a Christian, I got born again just before I went to secondary school. I got born again. I used to go to church, but when I really gave my life to Christ, got born again, received the Holy Ghost baptism, it was a few, I think that was in August 94. Yes, August 94. Then I went to secondary school in January 1995. So I entered school as a Christian. So when you are also a young Christian who you are really in love with God, you want to make sure that you do the right thing. So that also helped me to keep focus and then just push on. And this is how far God has brought us.
Wow, hallelujah. The first week in secondary school is usually memorable. Do you remember?
It's usually
memorable.
first week.
Yes.
Oh, first week is always memorable. I mean, it's when, but you see, the key to surviving is just to enjoy it. You know, there are many stages in life, and I always tell myself, wherever you get, you must enjoy it, because now looking back 25 years later, you are talking about it, and you may have memories, and then you may just laugh it off. It's also when you look at it that way, and even when you are in second, the first year will pass, the second year will come, the third year will come. So it's not really. At that time, people were really hang on about it, or had hang-ups about it. But I took it that let's just have some fun with it. So you just go with the flow. When we went to school, we were when we went to school, we still had the old system and the new system. And so when we went to school in '95, I think the Form 5s had just written their O level. So we had in the system those in lower 6 and those in upper 6. And so when you meet with, and then we had the SS group to like we had the first year, then we had second year and third. So it was a mixture of the old and the new, and it was wonderful. You had people. I mean, I remember when we went the first night. We were asleep when one senior came, woke us. Everybody, I said they was taking contribution to have this thing, anchorful this thing, donation for. So people gave sardine, people gave this. Then we carried it and went to put it in a straw box. That was where the donation was going. And there are many funny things. There was a time they woke us at 2 a.m., 3 a.m. They say, "You are going to play basketball." So we just followed, and I was just happy. You know that they are not going to do anything. We just go with the flow. I mean, I'm here talking about it, and you are laughing. You understand? But if you take it personal, there's nothing to take personal. It's just a stage, and it had to be very memorable. I can't remember everything, but these are some of the things that come to mind. Very, very memorable. And then there was the hummus night. That's another story altogether. That one I can talk to you about. The hummus night, because during our time it was well organized. It was like we did the exams. I have a hummus exam, and then they will tell you that if they find you cheating, they will sack you. And then in those days, the headmaster will release the school bus, or that time had bone shaker. Bone shaker.
Yeah, bone shaker.
Bedford track. That one. So the headmaster will release it. The lectures will close early, and then we'll go and do it. Then they'll catch some boys. Then they'll take you to the house to go and carry your trunk and chop box. Then the driver would sit here and start driving you out of Cape Coast. This well. And if you didn't know, you actually think that you are sacked. You've been sacked, and people will be crying like, "I can't go home." So. But nowadays they don't do all those things. But those things were fun. I mean, first year people found it very. I have only good memories. I mean, just enjoyed it, and then there were times that you have to do the scrubbing, but even with that, you see, if you do the key to surviving first year, if you do your work well, nobody worries you. And I was one person that they never bothered, because whatever work you give me, you tell me to wash, I will wash it so nicely that you'll be happy. You see, when you say, and the worst thing you can do is to tell me to read, because the way I will read the thing, you think I'm a professional. Because when I was at home, I used to read. So when I was in second, my housemaster would call me to come and read. They organized boys, because he liked the way I used to read. So organized. So if you just do it, you don't get into trouble, and then you just move on. Do whatever. But some of you are stubborn. Playing with the sea. When they say wash, you put it. Those times you used to have water baptism. You just take the thing, put it in the water, then go and hang it. And then they will beat you. And then you are saying they are wicked. But if you wash it and hang it, how long will it take? And then you are done. So some of you just cause your own difficulty. You are just stubborn people. You are just stubborn. You have to change. Anyway.
Okay, so
So I've answered all the secondary school questions.
almost free. Okay, Uncle, Friday when we go and read, you should know that the standard is high because the person you are going to read for, he's very good at reading. Okay, talking about stubbornness, do you remember the most notorious senior in your school?
Oh yeah, when we went to first, there was this. Now you are streaming everything, so I can't mention names. Okay. The person is watching, say that this person. Now that's the thing about social media. Now you can't have a private conversation. Everything you put out there, and then it becomes a problem. So I do remember, and it was quite fun. I think it was the one that woke us up at 2 a.m. to go and play basketball. And we were just happy. He was holding a torchlight in front, and we were also at the back, and we were just enjoying ourselves. It was fun.
Okay.
A fly has fallen into this thing.
Okay. David, can you please?
Oh, it's okay.
Let me drink mine.
Before the fly falls into it. Don't worry, when you finish, you can take the drink away.
Okay, Daddy. Were you more into sports or entertainment? And which activities were you involved in? And did you have any achievement in any of the activities?
When I was in school, I did everything. I used to go for entertainment. When we were in school, we only the few entertainment, the things that you either have a jam or we have watch movies. When they are doing jams and those things, I'm not interested. I won't be there. But I like movies, so anytime they showed movies, I'll be there. And those days, I was just I was going through the questions that I was just thinking that how were we watching? And I remember that it was just one big TV screen for over 200 boys or something, more than 200. And it wasn't even a projector. I was thinking, was it a projector? And I realized that in '95 there were no projectors. And so it was a big TV screen. They would put it in the assembly hall. Then they have the video, the deck, and then slide the thing in, and then and that was, I used to go. I mean, if it wasn't anything that I felt uncomfortable with, I used to go. I did sports later on in when I got to final year. I just did a bit of in the house sports, football. I mean, everything I did, but for the school, I did sports for the school when I was in final year in Form 3. And so I took part in everything. I mean, I think that's the essence of, if you can do it, do it. If you can't, you just
Okay, all right, thank you. Last question on secondary education. Salasa is from Krobo Girls. So she and I are very, very tight Pojo crew. Yeah, So what about you? Were you into Mobile Gehe?
Mobile Gehe is after school. I mean, when you are when you are in school, are you talking about after school or in school? Like visiting. When we were in school, we used to visit. I sometimes you go to Wesley Girls. Sometimes I didn't go to Holy Child often, but I used to go to Wesley Girls, go and visit friends, and so on and so forth. From time to time you go, and then that was it. As for Pantaman, I went to Pantaman once. Unfortunately, I didn't know Mommy was there, but she wasn't there when I was in school.
Oh wow!
When I was in school, she wasn't there.
Oh okay.
So I didn't go there. So we used to visit. I mean, go there from after school, as in Mobile Gehe Association. Now I'm too busy. I don't. Even though we contribute to, I mean, we've had our speech date when 2017, 2 years ago, when we were 20 years old, we helped host the speech day. We collaborated, we paid money, and about to have time to go for dinner, and it's too much work for me at this stage. I'm too busy.
Okay, thank you very much. We are going to go to university education, but if you just joined us, we are having a one-on-one session with Pastor Dr. Atto Brown, and yes. Okay, talking about university education, when did university education start, and which school did you attend?
We in university. I went to first year 1999. From 97 to 99, we stayed at home for 2 years because I think in 96 or 95, lecturers went on strike, and so the university calendar was put out of gear. So at a point, you had a backlog of students. So when we finish school, unlike today, you finish, then the next 2 months you are in school or something, awaiting results, and everybody, there was no, the schools wouldn't pick you if you were finished in this particular year. So we all stayed at home for 2 years. Within that year, the first year I didn't do much. The second year I taught in a school, Flowers Gate School, where we go. I taught there for 1 year. So I have people I see who have finished school working, who I taught. So, and then after that I entered school in 99, and I stayed on to 2006, because I went to school for 7 years. Unlike some of you stay in school for 4 years, you say you are tired. So we went to school for 7 years. Even now the medicine is, if you look at it carefully, 5.5 years, 6 years, but we had an extra year, so 7 years. So that was it. So went to school. So this year will be 20 years since I went to first year.
Wow.
Yeah, 19 years. So.
Okay, so overall in the university, do you think you cooked more in school or you bought more food?
Oh, I can't really recall. I cooked and I bought food. I mean, I can't give the proportions. Whether I cooked more. I think with time, I think initially I may not have cooked that much. I did cook because I went with a stove. I may not have cooked that much, but because sometimes getting the ingredients. But when I eventually found out where to get things cheaply, I mean, I was cooking more often. So it's both. I cooked and I bought food.
Let's move on to academics. Were there challenges in your academics, and how were you able to manage them?
As for challenges, medical school is tough. So that's why I always tell people when they complain that I'm dying, I say we can't die. You see, because medical school is very difficult, but we managed to go through. We did it in combination with church work. We did it in combination with sports, taking part, being a hall executive. So we did all of that, and so it's just a matter of managing and planning your time. I think there were challenges. I mean, you had to learn, but I always say, if you plan your time well, you should be able to do many things in a day. The thing is that many of us, we waste the time doing so many things, and then we complain that we don't have time to do anything, either to learn, or then we say we are learning and I don't have time for church, I don't have time for this and that. And I think if you just plan your time well, you should be able to get a lot of. So there were a lot of challenges, but we overcame them. Overcame all of them.
All right. I'm going to ask you about church on campus, and over here on the 12th of April, who knows what's happening here? 12th April. Oh, show some love for Harvest Praise. Chelsea, is the ad ready? Okay. So later on, we'll be watching an ad on Harvest Praise. And which church did you join on campus, and why did you join that church?
Oh, I was part of Harvest Chapel. That time was called Harvest Community Church, HCC, KNUST. So I was in the fellowship. Harvest International Ministry was a fellowship in Cape. I was in it. I grew up in it over my secondary school days. And when I was in France, I wasn't in Calvary Road. I joined the preaching. There was a group called the Preaching Group. My elder brother was in the preaching group. So when I went, I decided to join the preaching group. So I stayed. I've been in Harvest since '94. So I was in Harvest in, what do you call it? When it was still a fellowship and it wasn't a church. In 94 it was a fellowship. It just came out of Calvary Road Incorporated. So I was part of it. I was there when it became a church. That's the town branch. In fact, the UCC branch was started first, I think in 95. And then the town branch was started in 96. And then I was part of it. So I used to go to church in Harvest Town branch from 96. I was there. So when I went to school in 99, there was a branch on campus. So I joined Harvest Chapel on KNUST campus. And that was where Reverend Obeying was. And that was an amazing experience.
Wow.
So that was the church that I joined. And that was the reason why I joined it.
Wow. Put your hands together for that. Okay, so looking back from first year to graduation, how was your spiritual growth, and how did you serve in Harvest Chapel?
You know, when you make up your mind that, you see, when you get a certain foundation, you can't but want to continue. So the moment I joined HCC, Harvest Community Church, I just got in. I got into most of the activities. I was active. I was in the drama department because that's what I was doing. That's what I was doing when I was in Cape Coast during the fellowship days and years. And we used to have a lot. We used to have sell-out programs at Cape Coast Town Hall and Fansum Assembly Hall. We used to go from secondary to secondary school, just acting, and that was what a winning souls for Christ. So when I went to school, I just joined the drama department and was very active in the church. And I was made a hall coordinator first year, second semester. And so I started serving as a hall coordinator, where you call the people, do dawn, when there's time for dawn meetings, that you organize it. It was very tedious, but I didn't like leadership position because over the years from secondary school, you know, I held leadership position in a preaching group, and it was tedious. You know, sometimes when you get, because we've had all these things. So when people come and complain about, and I'm tired and I'm that, I say we've been there before. The ups and downs, even when they say they call executive meeting, you don't want to go because you feel that you've not done anything. It's like you are just dry, you are tired, you are not reading your Bible, you are out of it. We've been through all that, both at the secondary school and then at the university level. But I think with time, we learned how to depend more on God. As we learned how to pray, have our own devotion, quiet time, learn how to depend on God for ourselves or for myself, it made the work a little bit easier. But irrespective of all that, I still got tired. You know, sometimes in the middle of it, you get tired and just need to find a way to motivate yourself or rejuvenate yourself. So all these challenges have been there. So it's not, I wouldn't want to use the word roller coaster, but we've had our up moments and our down moments. But by the grace of God, we've managed to push through it. So I understand when people are afraid to become leaders, or when people hold back from being, when they are called to be leaders, or the fact that you're a leader doesn't mean that you don't have your own problems and troubles. That is why we try to talk and advise. So when we come and want to find out what is going on, it is not because we want to be nosy, because I know that it is not, you are not okay because you're a leader, or things are fine with you because you're a leader. I rather know that because you're a leader, you have nobody to talk to, because you feel that everybody looks up to you, and they would be surprised or maybe disappointed if they found out that the leader himself or herself was going through certain difficulties. You know, and that is what happens to many leaders. We assume that the people, we must always look strong and never be weak, and that rather pushes us down. So we've been through all that. Like I said, I served from a hall coordinator all the way to being an overseer for 2 years as an overseer, And that was the thing that I dreaded the most when I was being made an overseer. I just could not see myself leading God's people. I just felt inadequate and incapable. And during that time, I think that was the time that I really went to God and really told God that, God, I need you, because without you I'll fail. Because it's scary when you have to lead God's people. But through it all, we've learned all these lessons, and God has seen us through. And it wasn't for 1 year, it was for 2 years. And for those 2 years, I was commuting from Konfanochi Teaching Hospital to Tech Campus for all the meetings. And at a point in time, they even had to give me a stipend so that I could be able to travel between Konfanochi and Kien. So those of you know Kumasi, I was making that journey 4 times in a week, because I'll go for midweek service, I'll go for Friday meeting, I'll go for Saturday prayer into service, and I'll go for Sunday service. So I used to make that trip 4 times. On Sundays, they used to come and pick me with a church bus. But for the other 3 meetings, I'll pick a car and go to Tech Campus and then come back. And I was a medical student. At that time, I was overseer in my 4th year and in my 5th year and part of my final year. By the time I got to final year, I handed over. So we've done all that. So when we call you into leadership position, we tell you to do something. It is not because we are callous, half-hearted. We don't know you are students. We don't know that you are suffering. We have no clue as to what is going on. Been there, done that, bought the T-shirt, and I'll do it all over again. So we must learn that these are things we must do. If we want to be grounded and we want to do God's work, we must trust God enough and tell God that, God, I am inadequate, help me. And I'm sure I know God will take us through. Our time is almost up. I told you we're not finished.
Okay, hallelujah. And up to now, Daddy comes for Wednesday service, Friday he's here, Saturday he's here, Sunday he's here. So the foundation is always very important. Amen. Okay, now I have a question for all of you. How many favorite people does Daddy have? How many favorite? 1. Just 1. Okay, so your favorite person, we all know who your favorite person is. Was she in Harvest Chapel too?
I thought you were talking about Jesus Christ. So once you said she, then I knew it, because all along I was going to talk about how I gave my life to Christ in '94. So when you said she, I said then it can't be Jesus.
Yeah.
So I met. Mine was in Harvest. By the time she joined in when she was in her 2nd year. I think that time I had left for Konfanochi. I was coming from Konfanochi. So when the church, Mami was a singer. Surprisingly, in 5th year, she was in a hostel outside campus. And so the bus will come and pick me from Konfanochi. And just before it gets to Tech Campus, what's the name of that place? The place your hostel was. She was in a hostel called the Pink Hostel.
Pink Hostel.
I've not forgotten. What's the name of that area? Just after Family Chapel. What do you call that place? Maxima. Yeah, Maxima. But there's a name. That's a local name. So it will pick me and it will pick her. It will pick me, then it will pick her, and so we chat and go. By that time, I wasn't really, the thing was that, you see, if you are not looking, you will not find. You see, at a point in time, and that goes to the young men, if you are focused on doing a lot of things, sometimes we think that it will happen when it will happen. And then you just see somebody and then you'll be knocked out of You see, but sometimes the people you have good people around you will be a blessing. But if you are not looking, you won't see. You understand? So at the time when I was overseer and doing, I wasn't really looking for a relationship, and so I wasn't really looking. So it was after when I got to my final year and I handed over. Even that one I wasn't looking, you see. But then I got a prompting, and that one I'll tell you who gave me the prompting. that is why it's good to have fathers.
Yeah.
You see, many of you take fathers for granted, and so my father, not my biological father, prompted me. And once he prompted me, I began to look. You understand? And then once you begin to look, you realize that there are so many good people around you. If you are not ready, don't look. But if you look, and you will see. And that was when I really started focusing on mommy. And I realized that, well, she's a good person. I mean, when you are choosing, there are so many people that are around you, but eventually you eliminate, and eventually you get to somebody that you think, then you actually zoom in and decide that whether this one will work. You understand? So these people are excited, but you all of you are not looking and you are not getting it. I don't know what the young men are doing. And so once I started looking, I found that mommy has a lot of good qualities. The thing about a relationship which eventually it's a leap of faith. You will not know everything, but you must trust God, what God is saying, trust the things you have learned, and trust the things that you are looking out for. Because you see, if you want to fall in love or have feelings before you see that this person is good for, the feelings will lead you astray. That is why you must at least have an idea of what you want in the person you want to date. What are the qualities you want to see? Otherwise, when you say I'm ready, anything that is shapely you will like. And that is why many people get in trouble. That is why when we do relationship, we always say these are the things you must look out for, these are the things you must do. It helps so that when you are choosing, some brain matter also goes into it. You understand? It's not the whole thing. And then you get to know the person, and then you just flow and see where the good Lord will lead you. And this is how far God has brought us. So I met mommy in church, which is a good place to meet anybody.
Oh, show some more love, man. Talking about meeting mommy in church. In fact, since day one that I met daddy in ministry, they have always been doing it together. And our time is almost up, so I'll quickly ask a few questions on ministry. But then since they've always been doing it together, I think mommy should also join us here. What do you think? Show some love for the one and only sizeless Mama Ro. Oh, show some love, man.
Come and join you.
Okay. Hello, mommy. You know your children are really troublesome. When you have a lovely mom, you are free to cause trouble, right? Okay. So, Daddy, I'd like to ask, how did Harvest UCC ministry start for both of you?
Our coming to.
Yes.
Because like I told you, the ministry was here long before, and many pastors and overseers have passed through. So in 2011, I think at that time the pastor who was in charge was planning on leaving Harvest to start his own ministry. So we were asked that time. I had come to Cape Coast. I came back to Cape Coast in 2008. I finished school in 2006, and I came back to Cape Coast 2008. So 2011, we were told to come and help with the church. We were told to be patrons, and so we came in 2000. So we were asked by Reverend Fitzgerald Odonko, and with the blessing of Reverend David Okanse, who released us, and so we came, and so that was how come we came here in 2000. I think it was 2011 that we came. Yeah, so 2011 that we came. So that was how come we came. Got here.
Okay. Like I said earlier, you've always been in this ministry together with Mommy. Is it by some sort of agreement, or you two are just flowing in ministry?
I think when you choose well, God blesses your choice, and God blesses what you. I mean, I never knew I'll be doing all of this. I didn't know Mommy. It's not something that we planned. I mean, we never thought that we'd be sitting here with school children, and not that school children, with all of you here. And when you get to my age, you have a right to be called you people school children, because I went to university 20 years ago. So that's a long time. So at that time, Rollins was still president. Some of you don't even know when Rollins was president. So when you choose well, and God's hand is in it, I mean, God has a plan. So eventually, some way, somehow, it works out. I mean, it's not that it's not been without its pitfalls. I mean, when we came in at first, I think everybody had to find what they wanted to do with the ministry, because I was a pastor. My role was more of very clear cut, but I think at a point, Mami was asking herself what she was supposed to do. I mean, what role she was supposed to play, because I was going, I was coming out, and she had to also figure out some ways and what God wanted her to do in this ministry and for the people. And I think since she found what she was good at, and what she's been a blessing, and this what we are seeing couldn't have come about without her input, because she does most of the work. She's like the best assistant ever. The thing about having a good assistant is that they do all the work and you take all the credit. You understand? And you always see them in the background, but most of the things that get done with our programs, the planning, the organization, sitting together, I'm sleeping in my bed and she's having meetings. What are we doing? Who's doing this? Putting a prayer. And when she finishes, she comes and says, "The pastor is doing so well." The pastor, but that is also a gift. She's the, I don't need to say what needs to be done. She just does it because she knows what it is, the calling is, and what God is calling. So I think that we could never have planned it. We had no idea, but having had the same training, having sat under the same ministry of Reverend Obey and his wife, and just what God had planned for our lives, I think he put everything together, and it just became, and that is what it is, and that is what we see, and it just becomes something beautiful. So that is how I can explain it.
Wow. Oh, put your hands together for Mama Ro. Okay, Daddy, please, I'd like you to kindly pass on the microphone to Mama Ro. I would like her to say one or two things. Bismarck, there's a picture. I have a question for you, but before that, I want you to take a look at a picture before I ask that question. Oh, this is a beautiful picture, right? Very, very romantic picture. Okay. So, when you look at this picture, I believe you've seen it already. How does it feel like? So like Daddy said earlier, he looked and he found you, and then he became your husband, and then he's your pastor. So how does it feel like having your husband to be your pastor as well?
I think it's a privilege. It's a blessing. It's a blessing because I get to have my own personal bishop. And then apart from having my own personal bishop, I have my own personal doctor. And so I am very, very blessed. How do I put it? I think that it is not a very easy role, really, but God has been faithful, and I think he is, my husband is a great man, number one. He's a very great man, and then he's a great husband, and he's a great husband, and he's a great pastor. So it's very easy, or rather God has given me the grace, and it's very easy also to sit under his ministry. And I think one important thing I guard against, and God has helped me to, is not to take him for granted, because it's very easy for you to start taking the gift of God in your life for granted, whether it be a gift to say, it can be just your husband, but it's important to know that, remember that he is always a gift. Sometimes when people come into our lives, in the beginning they are gifts, and we cherish them and we hold them in high regard, but as time goes on we lose respect for them. But that is the blessing that I have had, that God has given me the grace to be able to see him not just as a man, but also as a man of God. And so when he steps in his role as a man of God, he's no longer my husband, he's my pastor. And the respect I accord my pastor is what I accord him. I get the blessing also of taking him home and having him as my husband. But even then, there are clear instructions as in how the relationship is supposed to be. So it's complicated on both sides. However, I think that it starts from just coming down and humbling yourself. Amen.
Wow, thank you. Put your hands together for them. I have to skip many of the questions, and time is up, so I'll ask just about 2 or 3 last questions, and any of you can answer. So when we visit, any student visits the Browns, what are some of the common things you talk about? Because obviously when a pastor invites you to his house, so what are the common things you talk about when people come home?
We talk about anything that you want us to talk about. So it's not I hope you did it this morning. Because it's not we don't have any fixed. It's like just meeting a friend. I mean, you don't have anything. It will be very awkward when people come and you have a set of questions like you have, and it doesn't work that way. It's just you come for a visit, so we talk about everything and anything. I mean, whatever you want us to start off with. I mean, when some people visit because they have certain issues that they want to tell you about, and when they finish talking about those issues and they think they found a solution, they want to go. That is fine. There are people who visit because they don't really have anything to talk about, they just want to come and sit in the house, and so we talk about everything. And there are people too that we call to come, and those are the people, when they are coming, then I don't know what they are thinking about. Many of them don't come. There are people I've been inviting for a year, 2 years, still haven't come. So maybe they just don't like talking to people. And I think one of the questions you had is, what are the common mistakes? That maybe if you ask, maybe I might. If not, I'll just say it anyway.
Okay, I think you can follow up with that.
And so when we call people to come, we just want to get to know you. I mean, where you come from, what you do, who's your way of parent. I mean, simple things. And then the fact that the reason why we are interested in you is that we want you to be your best. We want you to, and you see, over the years, I've realized that for people to be their best, they need Christ. They really need to get to the saving knowledge of Christ, and Christ must work on them and in them and be with them and upon them, or whatever adjective you want to use. And so our aim is that we, and you see, to actually get into the lives of people, I don't think you come and you chat with mommy even more than you chat with me. But I don't think that you chat with mommy because she's the wife of your pastor. It is a relationship that has been built. So I don't see your first visit to my house as building a relationship so that we can delve very deep into things. But as we keep on coming and talking, the aim is to build a relationship that will outlast your stay in this school. You see, like somebody like Papa Chris is here. Papa Chris has finished school a long time ago. You understand? And Papa Chris is a very old man. You understand? Yeah, he's not, no, in terms of age. You understand? He's not anywhere near anybody here. You understand? No, none of you here is close to him. You understand? But it's a relationship we have built over the years. You understand? So he still keeps on coming, because he can ask us for things that are not ministry questions, or even things he wants to do, and we are things that we also want done, that we call him, say that, can you do this for? So it goes beyond just and those are the kind of relationships that we are interested in. You see, because one thing that you must realize, that this is a very long walk, and it is for the rest of your life. Mommy and I, over the years, or even recently, have been pondering how so many good people who seem to be on fire and very zealous for the Lord have just fallen by the wayside, all because they kind of disconnect when they finish school. They just cut, or initially they're around, and suddenly they feel like, oh, I don't know what happens, but it's so we want to build lasting relationships, and those are the things that are found that last. And time is fast spent, but there are things that I've learned that I will share about fathers and fatherhood, and the things that fathers do in the life of people as a teaching or as a say. I think I've done it at SHS, but I must find time, because it's amazing, So we talk about everything, and basically we are interested in every aspect of your life, everything, whether you are eating, whether you are your school, relationship, everything is important to us, because that is your life. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Mommy, I want to ask you, just before we go, you always have people at home. This one is 2 in 1. So first of all, is it deliberate? Is it part of your prescription as pastors, or is just something you people like to have? And then in addition, can you tell us about the freezer in your kitchen that never runs out of food?
Okay, so first question is that people are home all the time. I believe that the ministry is about people. It's always about others, as Daddy has been teaching us over the past year. It's about others, and really it's about one person at a time. It's not a mass thing. It's one person at a time. And if we really want to do it effectively, we cannot just meet on Sunday or on Wednesday and think that we've done the work. because there is so much more. Everybody is an individual, and there is so much more that must be done, and so much more help that can be meted out to people that cannot be done in the congregation like this. And particularly, there are people also who they have a nice way of just hiding in the crowd. And so eventually what happens is that we all come to church, and we see it in all our churches. We all come to church. You find a few people who are just naturally outgoing. They just run around and everything, and church seems to revolve around them. And I realized, I think one of the things we've learned from our spiritual parents is that it is not the fact that somebody is outgoing. It's not just about the person. There are also people who are not outgoing but have great things within them, and it's important that we reach out and find such people. And it's very interesting. Over the years, I found that some of the people who were very quiet, who didn't seem to want to get involved, as we reach out and we get to them, they become so effective in God's hands. And I must reiterate here that it is not about us, because if it were about me, I'll probably be in my house feeling free. I like my privacy. Honestly, there are many people who think that, oh, we just like having a lot of people, but we are actually very private people. We don't really have many friends. Those who live in our house know it. You don't see many older friends. Nobody really comes around. So we are not really all over the place like that. We are actually quite private. So it's not a thing about, oh, we just want people around. But it is important that we spread out our lives to reach others, so that God would have the most benefits. Because at the end of the day, I believe that a relationship and a marriage, according to what God wants, should affect people around, and particularly should be a blessing to his church. So if you have a relationship, you have a marriage that blesses only you and your family, it's a useless one. And I don't think it's one that God is particularly interested in, because every relationship, every marriage is God's investment, and if he is invested in it, then he must have returns. And so it is not for us to keep to ourselves, but rather to open our homes. And at the end of the day, we are just stewards of the grace of God, of what he has given us, whether it is our chairs, our tables, our beds, whatever it is. We are just stewards of it. It's really not ours. It is immensely, as we have opened our home like that. So really, it's not that, oh, we just want plenty people in our home, but we realize that it is a more effective way of reaching out to people. Because I like the whole concept of crusades that rally a lot of people into the kingdom. But when it comes to growth cannot be brought about by crusades. It's brought about by one-on-one. Jesus said that I am sending you out so that you make disciples of all men. Disciple is not somebody who has given their life to Christ. Disciple is somebody who has learned the ways of Christ. And how can they learn the ways of Christ except God establishes teachers to teach? So that is basically our role. And then about that freezer that never runs out of food. It's the grace of God. I think by God's grace, one important thing we've learned over the years, I like to bulk buy, but so we will just the first fridge we got, Daddy looked at it and was like, that time we weren't planning on staying in Ghana, so when we bought that fridge, Daddy was like, this is too big, it is too much, we'll leave it anyway. So that was the first fridge that's in the kitchen. It's a double-decker fridge. Now after a few years, in fact after about a year, that fridge was too small. So somehow we had to get a second freezer, so that we could keep more things, because we sort of buy a lot of things. And that is the training I have had, buying a lot and putting it down, because at the end of the day, this particular freezer is that You will think you don't have food in the house at all, or you don't have, sometimes you are broke and you will be thinking that, how would we, like, okay, we need food, we need this, we need that. Oh, there are people coming to the house, let us find something for them. And you look inside your the fridge and there is nothing in it, and you know that you've spent, or you've virtually used everything. But if you get into that freezer, you can get a whole meal. I don't know where the meal comes from. And I remember one time Efia telling me that, Mommy, it is like angels come to this house and rain food into that freezer. Because interestingly, we would remove all the food. We know that this fish is finished. We know that chicken is finished. But when Daddy does freezer hunting, we will find there is a little chicken, a little fish, a little tomatoes, a little pepper, a little this, a little that. And before you realize, you can actually eat that for like 2 weeks. Not only you, but you can eat it with people for like 2 weeks until God tidies you over with other things. But it's been a blessing, and I think that is just a small part of extending your life out. Sometimes you think that if I open my home, if I open my life out to people, I won't have nothing left. But God is the supplier, and so when we open our lives up, God actually becomes the one who reigns into our lives, and our lives become more beautiful and it becomes full.
Amen. Okay. All too soon, time is up, and we were supposed to have time for questions, but if you have questions to ask, their homes are always opened, like they said, so you have to go home. So before we go, Daddy will give us his final words, if there's anything you would like to tell us as a family and a church before we close.
Our time is it's almost gone. I don't know. There are a lot of things that come to mind, but probably one question that I want to answer from what the questions that you put out was what is the common mistake that young people make? And I think the common mistake that young people make, which is a lesson I myself have learned, is that we think that we don't need anybody. You know, we have our families that we all come from, and we think that that is enough and is sufficient to see us through life. But I have news for you, it doesn't. I was telling somebody, and somebody said something, and it's very true. And I was telling somebody, I myself, I experienced the day something happens and you pick your phone and you don't have anybody to call, that is the day you realize that you have a whole lot of people in your life, but you don't have any friends. You see, because certain things happen, you see, especially when it is something that hits you on an emotional level. It's not everybody you can call. People call me, and when they call you, it's not that you can help them, but they just want somebody to talk to. They just want somebody to say something to, who just say that it's okay. You've not reached that point before, and that is why we take relationships and we take what probably we are doing here for granted, thinking that we don't need anybody. Everybody needs somebody, and one day you will require mercy from somebody. And so let us not cut off relationships. Let us not take it for granted. Many young people think they don't need to learn anything. In fact, we need to learn a lot. Any young person who feels that they don't need to learn everything, and that is why in the church we have people who seem to be close, people who seem to always have attention, or they feel that they are closer to as like I was saying, nobody, we don't have any favorites. In fact, we don't know any of you from anywhere. So it's not like somebody is my family member and I like that person more. I don't have any favorites. I mean, there are Ewe people here, there are Ga people here, there are Fanti people here, we have Nigerians here, Togolese. You understand? I'm not from Togo, I'm not from Nigeria. You understand? But it is so that is the one mistake that we do, because there are things that follow us, or there are relationships that help us long before or long after we finish school. So let's not take what we have here for granted, and let's not think that it's going to be like that, and it's going to be like that everywhere, and people are just nice people. I say the day that something will happen and you have 1,000 or 800 people or 600, and what I'm saying, that is the day you realize that I wish I had somebody I could call. Because there are people who call me at 12 midnight. There are people who call me, just call me. There are people, and they just want somebody to talk to. You understand? And if you miss out on this opportunity, and I'm not to say that without us you fail in life, or that you can't make it, and no, but it's just to say that God has brought you here for a purpose. Make sure you take advantage of the opportunity that God has given you. Don't let it slip. You could have gone to 10 different churches instead of coming to Harvest. You could have gone to 1,000 other places apart from coming to this place. But if God has brought you here and you are sitting here, then take advantage of what God has blessed you with. When I got close to Reverend Obeng in Kumasi, my life has never been the same. My life has changed. And one day I will tell you who a father is and what a father does in the life of some. And you realize that, look, many of us, we have nobody in our lives. And if you don't, one day you remember me when you pick your phone and you have nobody to call. So that is what I want to leave you with. So God bless all of you for listening, and then God bless you for having myself and my wife. And we pray that we will continue in this work and God will take us far, and many of you will be blessed by what God is doing here. Amen.
Amen. Okay, thank you so much, Daddy and Mommy. Thank you all for listening, and we are also grateful, Pastor, Dr. and Mrs. Brown. Thank you so much for having time. Daddy, one thing I didn't ask, you're a Liverpool fan, right? Oh, you never work alone. Is there any Liverpool fan here? Any Liverpool fan? Ellen, you're a Liverpool fan. Ellen, please go to the prophet. You go to the prophet. Hurry up, please. Give the prophet an escort. He's all the men in the church. We have something. So come with the prophet of God, please.
Let me explain something about Liverpool fan. You have to be born at least before 1980 to be able to be a Liverpool fan. because nowadays people are Chelsea fans, Man City fans, because they are winning the league title. In the 70s and the 80s, Liverpool was stopping. So unless you are old, when it's Liverpool fans are older people. They are not. They are senior people. Yeah. They are not young people. Okay. Liverpool fans are older people. So that is why there are no Liverpool fans. I can assure you, if Liverpool starts winning the Premier over time, you see that you get more younger people that are Liverpool fans. So the thing about it is that, and sport is something that I like, but I don't really get. You see, once you don't like, I always say you don't like football more than me. But now when I watch football, I can actually sleep. And Mommy laughs all the time. these teams, they are times and seasons for all the teams. There was a team called Nottingham Forest. Now, if you ask where Nottingham Forest is, you understand? So it's all times, and enjoy it while it lasts.
Yeah.
So God richly bless you.
Okay, Yadi. Thank you so much. We have all the men in the church have something for you, but I'd like you to first hand it over to Mommy, because if anyone brought something home, Mommy is the one who is going to open it. So please give it to Mommy so that she's going to open it. Thank you, Ellen, who claims she's a Liverpool fan. So, Mommy, please, can you please open it so that we see what we have for, it's not a bomb, for your husband? Can you please open it up? For the men in the house, man. Yeah. Daddy was born on the 9th of June. Who knows that? Yes, so this is the number 9 jersey from all Move members to our father, who is a man of significance. Amen. Before we go, I'd like all the men to join me here so that we take a picture with Daddy and the jersey.